Public class maximum. Maximum is the name of the class, and I am going to write a method, max method inside it. Public static void. Void we cannot use because we are going to learn the usage of return command, isn't it? Public static int. So let it be int. Or if you avoid static, you have to create the object manually. Public int max. Max method accepts two integer values. When you invoke this method, it will ask you to enter two integer values. Say int a, comma int b. Two formal arguments. The arguments declared at the prototype are called formal arguments. If anybody did not understand what is formal argument and actual argument, even with all the programs I am explaining the concepts. Okay. Public int max. Name of the method is, accessibility of the method is public. It returns integer type data. Name of the method is max. Two formal arguments are there, a and b. Okay. So it accepts two values, two integer values. Now how the value is returned? Int m equal to, say int m, to store the maximum. Int m equal to a greater than, okay, instead of that we will use like this. If a greater than b, return a, else return b. See, two return statements are given in this program. Look at this. Public class maximum, a class is written to find out the maximum of any two given numbers. Method's name is max method. It gives you back an integer value. It accepts two integer values and stores it in a and b. And in the method's body, we have written an if clause. If a is greater than b, which is the bigger of the two, a is the bigger. So return the value of a as the maximum value. Otherwise, return the value of b as the maximum value. Okay. So imagine that the two values 100 and 200 are passed to these variables when this method is invoked. You have to type this program, create an object of the class, right click on the created object and select max method. So in the method call window, it will display two text boxes to enter the values for a and b. So you provided the value for a as 100 and b as 200. Imagine. So 100 greater than, in this case 100 greater than 200. No. So if clause will not be executed, else part will be executed. So what will be returned? You will get the result as 200. 200 will be displayed in the method call window itself. We did not use system.out.println statement. In the method call window itself, you will get 200 displayed as the maximum value. Assume that you have entered the value 1000 for A and 200 for B. So in this case, 1000 greater than 200. Yes. So first return command will be executed. 1000 greater than 200. Yes. So return A. So you will get 1000 displayed on the method call window. But only one return statement will be executed. You can give a number of return statements by using if, else if construct, or two return statements by using if, else construct. Okay. Any number of return statements can be given in a function by using conditional constructs, but only one will be executed. Only one return command will be executed. Okay. So another example given in your textbook. Do this program today itself. Okay. To do this program, type it, compile the class. Method is a non-static method, so you have to create an object of the class. Then right click on the created object, select max method and provide values for A and B. So you will get the result, the maximum of the two given values displayed on the method call window. Okay. So method is closed, the class is closed. Another example is given in your textbook. Public class discount. Before that, let me read the text. So what do you understand from this? In a program, in a function, you can give any number of return statements by using conditional constructs. Okay, which are the conditional constructs? Simple if structure is there, if else structure is there, if else structure is there. These are the conditional constructs, isn't it? By using conditional constructs, you can give any number of return statements, but only one will be executed. Based on the condition evaluated, only one return command will be executed. The example given in your textbook is, let me go through the text. A method may contain several return statements. However, only one of them gets executed because the execution of the method terminates as soon as the return is encountered. Okay. So, whenever a return statement is in, immediately control goes to the method call statement. From where this method is called to that function, control returns back. Following program uses multiple return statement. Public class discount. Name of the class is discount. There is a method return applicable discount. So, actually there is a space in between applicable discount. When you try to type it as it is and compile, you will get an error message. You are not supposed to provide space between the words used to name function. Okay, identifier naming rules. Applicable discount, without space you have to type. Applicable, no space, discount. Okay. So it should be applicable discount, without any space you have to type. Function name, method name, you are not supposed to give any space between words used to name the function. Okay, all the identifier naming rules are applicable here. So double, this method gives back a double value, and it also accepts a sales amount. When a sales amount is passed to the function, it will calculate what will be the discount, maybe discount rate of discount. Rate of the discount is returned, is given back by the function. How, what is the percentage of discount available or allowed for this particular sales amount. So, discount method, applicable discount method accepts a sales amount. What are the conditions? If the sales amount entered by the user is greater than 18,000, the user will get 15% of discount. Let us assume that this is the percentage returned by the method. Okay. Applicable discounts rate or percentage given back by this method. Okay. So imagine that, assume that I purchased for 20,000 rupees. So in sales amount, the value entered by me is 20,000. So is it greater than 18,000? Yes, it is greater than 18,000. So what will be the discount given to me? I will get 15% discount. 15 will be my discount. Imagine that if the sales amount is not, if the sales amount is simply greater than 18,000, you will get 15% discount. If the sales amount is greater than or equal to 8,000, second condition, these are all simple if constructs. Simple if construct, isn't it? Only the last else if has an else. So actually, else if should be used. There is a mistake. It's not a mistake also. A simple if structure is used. Let me write the program on the board. Public class discount double applicable discount, returned value from the function is double. Applicable discount is the name of the function, applicable discount without any space. So you will pass the sales amount for how much you purchased to this method. Double sales amount. Double sale amount. If sale amount greater than or equal to 18,000, return 15.0, because return data type is double, not simply 15.0. Return data type is double. Now, if sale amount greater than or equal to 8,000, return 12.5. Return 12.5. If sale amount greater than or equal to 4,500, return 5.0. That means 5% discount. Else return 0. No discount. 0 discount. Method is closed. Class is closed. Let us see how it works. Okay. Name of the class is discount. Name of the method is applicable discount. Method gives back a double data type and it accepts a double data value. Okay. Assume that I have entered my sales amount is 20,000. I have given the value 20,000. When this method is invoked, to run this program, type this program. This is a non-static method. So to invoke non-static method, write the program, compile the class, type the program, compile the class, create the object of the class, right click on the compiled class. So you will be able to see this method name. When you invoke the this method call window appears because this is a parameterized method. It has argument, formal parameter, sales amount. So you are supposed to enter the value for sales amount. You entered the value as 20,000. Okay, so first condition, sale amount greater than 18,000. Yes, 20,000 is greater than or equal to 18,000. So condition evaluates to true. So immediate statement will be executed. Return 15.0. So from here, control goes out of this function. Okay, from here, at this point of execution, control goes out of the method. So remaining statements will not be executed. Remaining statements will not be executed. You will get 15.0 displayed on the method call window. Whenever a return command is seen, immediately control goes out of that method. Okay. So that is the first case. Assume that I have entered my sales amount is 15,000. 15,000. I have purchased for 15,000. So 15,000 greater than 18,000? No. So the statement will not be executed. Return command will not be executed. So it goes to the following command. If sale amount greater than or equal to 8,000, 15,000 greater than 8,000. Yes, 15,000 is greater than 8,000. So the immediate statement, the statement which is given immediately after this conditional clause will be executed. So this return command executes. Control goes out at this point of time from the function. You will get the value 12.5 displayed on the method call window. So remaining statements are not executed. Okay. Now assume that the next case, my sales amount is 5,000. Assume that my sales amount is 5,000. So sales amount greater than 18,000? No. So this return command will not execute. Sales amount greater than 8,000? No. 5,000 is not greater than 8,000. So this return command also will not be executed. Next command, If sales amount greater than 4,500, yes, 5,000 is greater than 4,500. So this return command will be executed where return 5.0. So 5.0 will be the discount rate for me. Okay. Now my sales amount is, so at this point of time control goes out of the method. So remaining statements will not be executed. Assume that I have purchased for 2,000 rupees. The sales amount is 2,000 rupees. So in this case, 2,000 rupees greater than or equal to 18,000? No. So this return command will not work. 2,000 rupees greater than or equal to 8,000? No. So that return command will not work. 2,000 rupees greater than or equal to 4,500? No. So else part of this last if will work. Last if only has the else part. Okay. Return 0. So my discount returned is 0. So from where the control goes, at this point this return command executes. So in this case you have seen that whatever may be the sales amount, only one return command executed. That's what in Java you can give a number of return statements in a method, but only one return command executes. Now returning values. Along with the return command we have given values to be returned to the part of the method call. Where the method call is given, to that part a value also will be returned. Only one value you can return. You cannot give two values, 15.0 comma 8.0, like this two values cannot be given. More than one value cannot be returned by using return statement. More than one primitive value. When you return primitive values, more than one primitive value cannot be returned by using return command. Return A comma B is not possible. It is wrong. Return A or return B. Only one value will be returned to the called method. Okay. So this is about return command. You can have multiple return statements in a method by using conditional constructs, but only one statement will be executed, because whenever a return command is executed, immediately control goes out of the method, so that the following return commands will not be executed. Now returning values. All methods or functions except those of type void return a value. This value is explicitly specified by the return statement. So what is the return data type of this method? Double. If the return data type of a method is any primitive data type, you have to return a value. Simply a return command cannot be given. See, you cannot give simply a return command here. If sales amount greater than or equal to 18,000, simply return command cannot be given without any value, because here return data type is double. So you have to return a double type value to the method call, to the place where the method is called, to the invoking part of the code. Okay. So if the return data type is any primitive data type, okay, or it may be an object also, it may be a class type also. So if you have specified the return data type, any other return data type other than void, you have to give back a value. What kind of data you have specified here, that type of value should be returned by the return command. If you have given here int, you are supposed to return an integer value. Return 5, okay, an integer value. If you have given here float or double, you are supposed to give the value, return value as 5.0, okay. If it is boolean, we have seen a program with the boolean return data type. Boolean, here the return value should be true or false. Return true or return false, okay. If it is character type, return a single character should be given. Single character, okay, whatever it is. whatever is the data type specified here, that kind of value you have to use in the return statement to return. And the value specified here and the data type given here should match. Otherwise, if both are different, it will display data type mismatch error. Okay. If you give void here, you will not be able to specify any variable name or any data value along with the return command. Simply return command. Okay. That's about returning values. All methods or functions except those of type void return a value. That note you should see. A method can return only a single value, although it can have multiple return statements. This value is explicitly specified by the return statement. If in a method a return statement is missing, then the return value of the method is technically undefined. Only the methods declared as void do not return a value and hence cannot be used in expressions. A method can return only a single value, although it may have multiple return statements. Now, scope of the variables. Scope of variables. Scope of variable means there are three different types of variables: instance variables, parameter variables, local variables. They are talking about instance variables, parameter variables, and local variables. Already once I have explained that concept, but still, to have a quick revision, let me write a small program. Public class, this program you need not do, okay, just for demonstrating the different types of scope of different types of variables. Public class XYZ. Imagine that there is a class called XYZ and two variables are declared here. So int x comma int y. See, these variables are declared at the beginning of the class. They are known as instance variables. These variables are known as instance variables or global variables. Instance variables, okay. Variables declared at the beginning of the class, or they are global. Global to all the methods in the class. Global variable, okay. And public void sum. Assume that, so here int a comma int b. So in this function, int s equal to s equal to a plus b. System dot out dot print line a comma b. S. Okay, system dot out dot print line statement and all I am not writing. There are some more statements. And inside this, imagine that there is a for loop written. For int I equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10 plus I, system dot out dot print line I. And inside this for loop, int z equal to 20 plus 30. Some statements. For loop is closed, method is closed. Imagine that I have written one more method. So here at this part, public void test method. X equal to 10, y equal to 5. Int p equal to x plus y. Some statements are written. Method is closed, class is closed. Okay. So, look at the board. Int x comma y. Variables are declared at the beginning of the class. See, this block origin starts here. This block, this is the beginning of a block. Block which defines the body of the class. Block starts here. At the beginning of this block, two variables are declared x comma y. So, this way, these two variables are available anywhere in the program till the end of this block. This curly braces is closed here only. This is the closing of that curly braces. Okay. So, here it starts, here it ends. So the scope of all the variables declared at the beginning of the class is till the end of the class. Anywhere in this program, in any method, we can use x and y. They are known as instance variables or global variables. So the scope of instance variable is limited to the class. That means anywhere in the program, we can refer to those variables. For example, see x and y. These two variables are referred in this method, public void test, x equal to 10, y equal to 5. So, x and y are available anywhere in this class till here, till this closing of the block. Okay. So, variables declared at the beginning are available throughout the class till the end of the class. Anywhere you can refer those variables. Okay. Now, look at here, public void sum, int a, int b. Int a and int b are the formal parameters of the function sum. Formal parameters of this function. Only this function knows about a and b. So, a and b are available only within this function. So, this is the scope of variable a and b. Variable a and b are known only to this method sum. Okay. Outside of this block, you will not be able to refer to a. If you try to refer to a or b, it will not be available. Computer will display an error message, variable is not declared. Here, if you try to use a equal to 25, it will display an error message that a is not declared. A is not a global variable. A is not declared in this method. Where is a declared? A is declared as a formal parameter to sum method. It is a private property of sum method. Okay. It is not available to other methods. So, this statement will make an error. A equal to 25 in test method. Okay. So, scope of formal parameters is limited to the method in which it is declared. So, these formal parameters are available only within this method. Now, local variables. Inside this method, there is a variable declared s. So, this is declared at the beginning of this method. So, in this method, anywhere you will be able to use s. Scope of s is also method sum. It is accessible, x is accessible to all the looping structures or if else construct in the same method sum. Okay. So, scope of s is this method. Whereas, now you can see that a local variable I is declared with the for loop. For int I equal to 1. Where is it declared? It is declared in the for loop. Okay. So, this I is available. I is available only within this for loop. Outside of it, it is not available. This I is not only to this for loop. I is not only to the for loop. Outside of it, if you try to refer I, it is not available. Likewise, in the Z is declared within this for loop. So, Z and I are known only to this for loop. Z and I. Scope of Z and I is only within the for loop. Formal parameters A and B are available, are known to the entire method. S is also known to the entire method. So, scope of S is limited to this method, whereas scope of I and Z is limited to for loop. Okay. So, the scope of a variable is limited to the block in which it is declared. So, that is a general principle. Scope of a variable is limited to the method or to the block in which it is declared. Here you look at test method. Here there is a variable declared P. So, P is available only in this block. P is non only in this block. After the declaration only you will be able to use the variable. Okay. So, P is non only to the test method. Outside of it P is not available. Okay. I think you understood. This program you need not do. A block begins here. Int x. Block ends here. So, x is available throughout this block. Okay. X is available throughout this block. Inside this block, I am declaring another block. So, int y. And this block ends here. So, y is available in this block, throughout this block. Inside this, I am declaring another block. So, in z, another variable is declared here. And this block ends here. Z is available only within this block. So, scope of x is limited to this block, outside block. Scope of y is limited to the second block, nested block. Okay. Scope of z is limited to this block. The block in which a variable is declared, the scope of the variable is limited to the block in which it is declared. Okay. Now look at scope of the variables. Scope of a variable refers to the area of the program which it can be accessed and used. In a class definition, there are three kinds of variables. Instance variables are the variables declared at the beginning of the class. A method, instance variables. Any method in the class definition can access these variables. Variables declared at the beginning of the class can be accessed by any methods written inside the class. Now, parameter variables, formal arguments. Only the method where the parameters appears can access these variables. This is how information is passed to the object. Local variables. Only the block where the variable is declared can access these variables. These variables are used to store intermediate results. A block represents a set of statements enclosed in curly braces. This is a local variable, local to this block. This is a local variable, local to this block. This is another local variable, local to this wide area. Okay. So, x is available in this block. That means x is available to this block, nested block, and innermost block also. Whereas z is available only to the innermost block. Y is available to the outer block and to the inner block also. Okay. So, now look at the example. Public class 2 sides. Public class 2 sides. In the side 1 and side 2 are the global variables, are the instance variables. Side 1 and side 2 are the instance variables. Now, one method is written there. Public boolean test right triangle. A method is written to check whether the given values are the values of a right-angled triangle. Right-angled triangle. Okay. Public boolean test right triangle. It's a public method. It gives you back true or false. You will be giving two values to the method. So, it will check whether the given values are the sides of a right-angled triangle or not. Okay. What is the formula? What is the logic for checking whether a given triangle is right-angled triangle or not? If the hypotenuse equal to the square root of hypotenuse equal to the square root of base h square equal to x square equal to, you might have studied this, h square equal to base square plus height square, sorry. Okay, what is the formula that you have studied in maths? Hypotenuse square equal to, Amlin, tell me. How do you check the whether a given triangle is right angle triangle or not? What is the formula that you have studied? Base square plus side square, isn't it? Am I right? So h equal to root of a square plus b square. Am I right? That is the formula. So here public Boolean test right angle triangle. Name of the method is test right angle triangle. You are passing the value of hypotenuse to this method. And side 1 squared into side 1 squared is side 1 into side 1. Where are we providing the value for side 1 and side 2? We did not provide any values in it. So how will you be able to square it? You have to provide value. Side 2 squared is side 2 into side 2. Into hypotenuse squared is hypotenuse into hypotenuse. Return side 1 squared plus side 2 squared equal to hypotenuse squared. This function will not work. You have to provide the value for side 1 and side 2. Isn't it? So as function argument, what you have to do? Public Boolean test right angle, test right triangle. Public class 2 sides. Int side 1 comma side 2. Both are instance variables. Okay, side 1 comma side 2. Now we have written a method public Boolean test right triangle. Public Boolean test right triangle. Int hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Now you are passing only the value of hypotenuse to the method. Am I right? This is a method. Side 1 and side 2 are global variables. They are declared at the beginning of the class. So they are available here within the method also. So you have to set the value for side 1 and side 2. Say side 1 equal to side 1 equal to 10. Or let it be side 2 equal to, you can set any value. Side 2 equal to 5. How the sides of the hypotenuse triangle will be? 1:2:3 ratio, isn't it? So let it be side 1 is, okay, let it be 3, let it be 4. And so you can square the side. Side 1 and side 2 square can be calculated. Remaining statements from your textbook, okay. Into side 1 squared equal to. See, you have to add 2 more statements at the beginning of this test right angle triangle to provide some values. When you invoke the method, you will provide the value for hypotenuse. Say it is, you are passing the value 5. So now remaining statements are from your textbook. Into side 1 squared equal to, side 1 is 3 into 3. 3 into 3 is 9. Side 2 squared is 4 into 4. 4 into 4 is 16. Return, what is the last statement? No, into hypotenuse squared. Assume that you passed the value 5. So squared value is 5 into 5, 25. And what are you returning? Return side 1 squared plus side 2 squared. Side 1 squared is 9. 9 plus side 2 squared is 16 equal to side 3 squared, sorry, hypotenuse squared. Hypotenuse squared is 25. So 9 plus 16 equal to 25. Is it true? Is it true or false? Now, Helena, are you there? Helena? Helena? Hello? Helena? Are you there? Mic is not on. Fatima. Fatima, what did I tell you now for this program? Public class, 2 sides. Program is given in your textbook. In the side 1 and side 2, 2 variables are declared, but they are not initialized. A method is written. Public boolean test right angle triangle. Only one argument is passed to the function. That is hypotenuse. Value for hypotenuse. For a right angled triangle, values of the sides will the sides values will be 3:4:5. Then only it will be a right angled triangle. So I just passed the value like that. So these 2 statements you have to write inside the method. You have to assign a value to side 1 and side 2. You can assign any value. So for the time being, I included the statement to assign the value 3 to side 1 and 4 to side 2. Side 2. And hypotenuse, for hypotenuse, when I invoked the method, I passed the value 5. And the next statement written in your textbook in that program is side 1 square. Side 1 square, 3 into 3, 9. Next statement is side 2 square, 4 into 4, 16. Next statement is to calculate hypotenuse square. In the hypotenuse squared is hypotenuse into hypotenuse. So as I pass the value 5 to the hypotenuse, its square is 25. 25. Okay. So in the last statement, return, there is a calculation included in the statement, isn't it? Along with the return statement, a calculation is given. The result of that calculation and condition checking should be returned by this method. So what is the calculation? Side 1 squared plus side 2 squared. Side 1 squared is 9 plus side 2 squared equal to hypotenuse squared, isn't it? So calculation should be performed first and then that value should be compared with the hypotenuse squared. In this case, 19 plus 16 is 25. 25 equal to 25. Yes, true, true. So that value will be returned by the return command. Return command will return this true. So did you understand? You have to include 2 statements in this method, then only it will work. And you can provide any value depending upon the values you provided, whether it will give you true or false. Okay. If you give 1, 2, 3, it may be 1, 2, 3 if it is given 1 square plus 2 square, 1 plus 4, 5, 3 square is 9. So it will return you false. Instead of 3, if you are providing the value for side 1 as 1, for side 2 as 2, for hypotenuse as 3, you just think 1 square plus 2 square equal to 3 square. 1 square is 1 plus 2 square is 4. 4 plus 1, 5 is not equal to 3 square. 3 square is 9. So it is not right angled triangle. False will be the returned value. So this program also you have to do. Did you understand what change I told you to make in the program? Alan Kutukaran, tell me what change you have to make in the program. Alan Kutukaran? Hello. Yes, tell me what change you are supposed to make in the program. You have to include 2 more statements inside that program, then only it will work. Eh? At the beginning of the test right angle triangle, add two more statements. Provide the value for side 1 and side 2. Then only you can ask Java to square it. Am I right? Two statements are missing there. Include that. Okay? In already we have declared it here. Global. They are available in all the methods. Okay? Declaration is given here. So you have to just assign the value. As they are declared here, they are available in this method. Okay? So hypotenuse is local variable. Local variable to this method. Side 1 and side 2 are global to the class. And inside the method we have declared side 1 squared and side 2 squared, hypotenuse squared. So those three variables are local to that method. Okay, so let me go through that explanation and wind up. This example code checks if we have a right angle triangle. The class contains two short sides of triangle and we pass the long side, hypotenuse. We apply Pythagorean theorem. Side 1, side 2 are instance variables, variables declared at the beginning of the class. And all the methods can access these two variables. We say scope of instance variable is the entire class definition. The scope refers to the section of code where the variables are available. Side 1 squared and side 2 squared, hypotenuse squared are local variable to the function test right angle. So they are available only in test right angle method. Hypotenuse is a parameter variable for the test right angle method. So that is available only within that method. Okay. Till here only I am reading. And that example also is there. Public class two sides. Into side 1, side 2. Side 1, side 2 are global variable, instance variable. Public Boolean test right angle into hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is a function parameter. It is available only within the function. And they have written one more function. Hypotenuse refers to parameter above. Hypotenuse is not the same as test. You need not consider that example. Did you understand the difference between local variable, global variable, instance variable, parameter variable and local variable? Hanna, are you there? Hanna, did you understand the difference between instance variable, parameter variable and local variable? San Maria? Hello? San Maria? Did you understand? Helena? Let me just see whether Helena is there or not. Helena, are you there? Helena. Helena is not there. Helena is not responding to me right from the beginning onwards. Okay. So I hope everybody understood the concept of instance variable, local variable and parameter variables. Okay. So today you have to do two programs. Three programs are there. Three programs. One is that max, to find out maximum, class maximum, which I have written on the board. I think all of you might have copied. Okay. The second program is with the multiple return statement, that is public class discount. Third program is from the scope of variables, public class two sides. You have to make some modification in the program that I have already told you to include these two statements in the test right angle triangle. Okay. Test right triangle. Include two more statements. So there are three programs for you to do. Let me just see. Any more programs whether I can give you? Is there any class now? You have the class. Okay, so let me wind up today. You have to go through your textbook. There are 3 programs to do. You have to do it today itself and send me. I'll put a tick mark against the student's name who are sending the homeworks done. Screenshot image, yes. Which? No need to write any other method now for the time being. Only this method. Okay. 2 statements you have to include inside this and give some values. According to the value you provided for side 1, side 2 and hypotenuse, it will give you true or false as the returned value. Any more doubts? I'm going to wind up because the next teacher is waiting here to conduct the class. Okay. So if you have any doubt, please message me or call me. Today itself, I want the images of the homework done. Screenshot. Okay, thank you.